The forest was too quiet. Not the normal quiet of birds sleeping or wind resting. This was a heavy quiet, the kind that makes a man feel watched. Ethan moved slowly between the tall trees. His boots stepped on dry leaves, but even that small sound felt loud. He should not be here. The war between humans and orcs ended months ago. The king signed papers. The soldiers went home. But peace on paper is not peace in the heart. Ethan knew that better than anyone. He lost his younger brother in the war. Orc raiders attacked their village at night. Fire, screams, blood. He still remembered the smell of smoke. He hated orcs. At least, he thought he did. Then he saw something ahead. At first, he thought it was broken branches. Then he stepped closer, and his breath stopped. Two bodies were hanging upside down from a large oak tree. Orc women. Their green skin was dirty and cut. Their long dark hair touched the ground. Thick ropes were tied tight around their ankles. Their armor was broken. Dried blood covered their faces. Someone left them there like hunted animals. A wooden sign was nailed into the tree trunk. This is what happens to monsters. The words were carved deep. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. Orcs were enemies. Orcs killed humans. Orcs destroyed homes. So why did this feel wrong? He forced himself to look away. This is not my problem, he told himself quietly. He took one step back. Then something moved. Very small. Very weak. One of the orc women's fingers twitched. Ethan froze. No, that was not possible. They had been hanging for hours. Maybe longer. He stepped closer again. One of them slowly opened her eyes. Yellow. Sharp. But not filled with anger. They were filled with pain. And fear. The second one moved too. Both were alive. Barely. Their chests moved slowly. Too slowly. Ethan's heart began to beat faster. If he helped them, he would be called a traitor. If someone saw him cutting those ropes, he could be arrested. Or worse. His hand moved to his sword. Not to attack, but because he did not know what else to do. One of the orc women tried to speak. Only a weak sound came out. Not a growl. Not a threat. It sounded like a broken whisper. Ethan did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She was begging. He looked at the sign again. Monsters. He looked at their faces. They did not look like monsters right now. They looked like two dying warriors. Left alone. Upside down. Waiting for death. The wind moved through the trees. The ropes creaked softly. Time felt slow. Ethan remembered something his father once said. A real warrior knows when to fight and when to stand for what is right. He swallowed hard. His brother's face flashed in his mind. Anger filled his chest. Then doubt. Then something else. He slowly removed his glove. His fingers touched the rope. It was tight. Rough. Whoever tied them wanted them to suffer. He hesitated. This was the moment. Walk away, and no one would blame him. Help them, and everything could change. One of the orc women's eyes met his again. She did not look strong anymore. She looked human. Not in body, but in fear. Ethan made a decision. He pulled out his knife. The blade shined in the small light between the trees. For a second, the orc woman's body became tense. She thought he would stab her. Instead, he cut the rope. The first body dropped hard to the ground. A heavy sound. The forest echoed it. Ethan quickly cut the second rope. The second orc fell beside the first. Both lay still. Too still. Ethan's heart stopped for a moment. Had it been too late? Then one of them coughed. A weak, painful sound. But alive. Very alive. Ethan stepped back slowly. He had just done something no human soldier would ever expect. And somewhere in the forest, he felt like someone was watching. And they were not happy. For a few seconds, no one moved. The forest held its breath. The two orc women lay on the ground, still and silent. Their bodies were large and powerful, but now they looked broken. The ropes had left deep red marks around their ankles. Blood slowly returned to their heads. Ethan stood 3 steps away. His knife was still in his hand. He did not know what would happen next. Orcs were trained from birth to fight. Even wounded, they were dangerous. He had seen it in the war. A dying orc once pulled a soldier down and broke his neck with his last breath. He tightened his grip. If they attacked, he would defend himself. One of the orc women suddenly gasped. Air rushed into her lungs like someone drowning who finally reached the surface. She coughed hard. Her body shook. The second one groaned in pain. But neither of them reached for a weapon. Neither of them attacked. Instead, they struggled just to breathe. Ethan frowned. This was not what he expected. The smaller orc woman slowly rolled onto her side. Her yellow eyes found him again. They were sharp, but confused. She looked at the cut rope, then at him, then back at the rope, as if her mind could not understand what happened. The taller one tried to sit up, but failed. She fell back heavily. Ethan felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, not hate, something else. He slowly stepped forward, but carefully. "I will not hurt you," he said, his voice low and steady. The words felt strange coming out of his mouth. He had never spoken kindly to an orc before. The taller one blinked slowly. Her lips moved. "You, human," she said in broken language. Her voice was deep but weak. "What?" Ethan had no clear answer. He looked at the sign still hanging on the tree. "Because I was wrong," he said quietly. The smaller orc woman stared at him as if trying to see inside his mind. Then something unexpected happened. She lowered her head slightly. Not fully, just a little. It was not weakness. It was not fear. It looked like respect. Ethan slowly removed his water flask from his belt. He hesitated. Then he placed it on the ground between them and stepped back. The smaller one crawled forward carefully. Her movements were slow, painful. She grabbed the flask with shaking hands. For a second, Ethan thought she would throw it at him. Instead, she drank. Long, desperate. Water spilled down her chin. She passed it to the taller one. They shared it without speaking. That surprised Ethan more than anything. In war, he saw orcs fight, even each other for food. But these two shared. After drinking, the taller one finally pushed herself into a sitting position. She was tall even while sitting. Scars covered her arms. Old battle scars. She was a warrior. "My name, Ragna," she said slowly. She touched the smaller one's shoulder. "Mira." Ethan nodded once. "I am Ethan." The names hung in the air. Enemy names, but not shouted on a battlefield. Spoken quietly in a forest. Then Ethan heard something. A branch snapping. Far away, but not an animal. Too heavy. Boots. His body became alert immediately. He raised one hand toward them. Quiet. Ragna's eyes sharpened instantly. Even weak, she sensed danger. Mira tried to stand, but her legs shook badly. Ethan listened carefully. Voices. Human voices. Laughter. They should be dead by now. The words reached his ears clearly. His stomach turned cold. The men who hung them here were coming back. Not to help. Not to show mercy. They were coming to watch. To enjoy. Ragna looked at Ethan. She understood. Her jaw tightened. She did not beg this time. She did not speak. She simply prepared herself. Even if she had to die, she would die fighting. Ethan looked at the forest path where the voices were getting closer. Then he looked at the two orc women. Weak. Barely able to stand. If he left now, he could pretend he never came. If he stayed, he would be choosing a side. The boots were closer now. Branches breaking. Armor moving. Ethan made his decision. He grabbed Ragna's arm and pulled her up. Move. Now. Mira looked shocked. You help again? She whispered. Ethan did not answer. He helped them toward the old stone ruins deeper in the forest. Behind them, the human laughter grew louder. And this time, Ethan knew there was no going back. The old stone ruins stood deep inside the forest. Broken walls. No roof. Cold air moving through cracks in the stone. It was once a watchtower from an ancient war. Now it was only shadow and dust. Ethan helped Ragna sit against the wall. Mira leaned beside her, breathing hard. Their strength was slowly returning, but they were far from ready to fight. Outside, the voices were closer. Human voices. Laughing. Mocking. They must still be hanging. Maybe the birds started already. Ethan's jaw tightened. He moved quickly, covering the broken entrance with fallen branches. It would not fully hide them, but maybe it would buy time. Ragna watched him carefully. You protect enemy, she said quietly. Ethan did not look at her. I protect prisoners, he replied. Ragna studied his face. You lost someone in war. It was not a question. Ethan's hands stopped for a second. Yes. Ragna nodded slowly. So did I. That surprised him. Before he could ask more, heavy footsteps stopped near the oak tree behind them. The soldiers had arrived. There was silence. Then one of them cursed loudly. What? The ropes are cut. Another voice growled. They were alive. Ethan's heart began to beat harder. They cannot be far. Branches snapped. Armor clinked. They were searching. Mira tried to stand again. This time she stayed up, but her legs trembled. Give me weapon, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. You can barely stand. Still warrior, she replied firmly. There was pride in her voice, but also weakness. The footsteps were closer now. Too close. A shadow moved past the broken wall. Ethan stepped outside before the soldiers could enter. For human soldiers, all armed, all angry. Their leader, a tall man with a scar across his face, stared at Ethan. For a moment, recognition flashed in his eyes. Ethan, the others looked confused. You know him? One asked. The leader nodded slowly. He fought at Red Valley. Saved 20 men. The soldiers looked at Ethan differently now. Not as a stranger, but as a hero. Then the leader's eyes moved past him, toward the ruin. His expression hardened. You helped them. It was not a question. Ethan stood tall. The war is over. One soldier spat on the ground. Not for monsters. Behind Ethan, Ragna stepped forward into view. Weak but standing. Mira stood beside her. The soldiers raised their weapons instantly. Ethan lifted his hand. Stop. The leader's voice turned cold. Move aside. Ethan did not move. They were prisoners, tied like animals. They are animals, one soldier shouted. Ragna's eyes flashed with anger, but she did not attack. Instead, she did something unexpected. She slowly dropped the broken spear she had been holding. It fell to the ground. Mira did the same. No weapons. No threat. Just two wounded warriors standing in silence. The soldiers hesitated. This was not the picture they had in their minds. Orcs were supposed to roar, to charge, to kill, not stand quietly. The leader stepped forward. If we let them live, more will come. Ethan looked him directly in the eyes. If we keep killing, more hate will come. The forest wind moved softly between them. No one spoke. Then Ethan did something none of them expected. He dropped his own sword. It hit the ground with a heavy sound. If you want to kill them, he said calmly, you kill me first. The words hung in the air. The soldiers stared at him in shock. He was offering his life. For orcs. The leader's jaw tightened. You would die for them. Ethan's voice did not shake. I would die for what is right. Behind him, Ragna's breathing became steady. For the first time, her eyes showed something different. Not suspicion. Not confusion. Respect. The tension stretched like a tight rope. One wrong move, and blood would cover the ground. Finally, one of the younger soldiers slowly lowered his sword. Then another. The leader looked around, frustrated. This is not over, he said quietly. He turned away. The others followed. Their footsteps faded into the forest. Silence returned. Ethan slowly picked up his sword. Ragna stepped closer. You stand between worlds, she said softly. Ethan looked at the dark trees where the soldiers disappeared. No, he replied. I stand between hate and something better. But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Because when warriors refused to hate, both sides started to see them as enemies. The ruins were dark and cold. Old stone walls stood half-broken. The roof had fallen long ago. Moonlight slipped through cracks and painted the floor in pale silver lines. Ragna leaned against a wall, breathing hard. Mira sat near the small fire Ethan had made. The flames were weak, but enough to give light. Outside, the human voices were close now. Too close. They cannot be far. Ethan stood near the broken entrance. His sword was in his hand this time. He knew these men. Not personally, but he knew their kind. Soldiers who could not stop fighting even after the war ended. Men who needed an enemy. Boots stepped over fallen stones. For shadows appeared at the entrance. The leader stepped forward first. Tall, heavy armor, a scar across his face. His eyes moved from Ethan to the fire to the orc women behind him. His lips curved into a slow smile. Well, he said softly, look at this. The other soldiers laughed. You cut them down. It was not a question. Ethan did not move. They were prisoners, he said calmly. The war is over. The leader stepped inside. The war is never over. Ragna tried to stand straight behind Ethan. Even weak, she looked powerful. Mira picked up a broken spear from the ground. The soldiers noticed. Their hands moved to their swords. Ethan felt the air grow tight. One wrong move, one fast breath, and blood would spill. The leader pointed at Ragna. She burned 3 villages in the north. Ragna's jaw tightened. I followed orders, she said slowly. Her human language was not perfect, but her meaning was clear. The leader laughed. And now you want mercy? Mira suddenly spoke. We refuse to kill prisoners. Her voice was shaking but strong. The soldiers looked confused. The leader's face darkened. Lies. Ethan looked at the men. Check the northern records, he said. Some orc units stopped killing after the 3rd battle. I saw it myself. The leader turned sharply. You defend them like they are your family. Ethan's grip tightened on his sword. No, he said quietly. I defend what is right. Silence filled the ruin. Fire cracked softly. The leader stepped closer. You know what people will say? He whispered. They will call you traitor. Ethan felt a heavy weight in his chest. He had thought about that already. He had imagined the looks, the whispers, the anger. But he had also seen 2 women hanging upside down, left to die slowly. He looked at the soldiers one by one. If helping the weak makes me a traitor, he said calmly, then maybe we forgot what being human means. The words hit harder than any sword. For a moment, no one spoke. One of the younger soldiers shifted his feet nervously. He looked at Ragna, then at Mira. They were not attacking. They were not roaring. They were simply standing there, tired, bleeding, alive. The leader's eyes moved again, back and forth. He was losing control of the moment, and he hated it. You think this changes anything? He growled. No, Ethan answered. But it has to start somewhere. The tension broke in a strange way. Not with a scream, not with a blade. The youngest soldier slowly lowered his sword. I'm tired, he said quietly. The others looked at him in shock. Tired of this, he added. The war is over. Another soldier lowered his weapon. Then another. The leader stood alone now, sword still raised. His jaw was tight. His pride was hurt. Finally, he spat on the ground. This is not finished, he said coldly. He turned and walked out of the ruin. The others followed. Their footsteps faded into the forest. The silence returned. But this silence felt different. Ragna slowly sat down. Her hands were shaking. You stand against your own kind, she said. Ethan sheathed his sword. They are not my enemy, he replied. Mira looked at him carefully. And we are. Ethan paused. He thought about his brother, about the fire, about the hate that once filled him. Then he looked at them. No, he said quietly. Not anymore. Outside, the wind moved through the trees again. But this time, it did not feel heavy. It felt like something had changed. And for the first time since the war ended, hope entered the forest. The fire inside the ruin burned low. Night was deep now. The forest outside had gone quiet again, but not in a dangerous way. This silence felt heavy with thinking, not fear. Ethan sat across from Ragna and Mira. The tension from earlier had not fully left, but something had shifted. They were no longer just enemies hiding from soldiers. Now, there were 3 people sitting around the same fire. Ragna stared into the flames. You think war ended because kings signed paper, she said slowly. Ethan looked up. Is that not true? Ragna's eyes moved to him. War ended because both sides were tired. Not because truth was found. Mira nodded. There was lie, she added quietly. Ethan frowned. What lie? Ragna took a slow breath. In first year of war, human farms near border burned. Ulmans blumat orcs. Ethan's jaw tightened. He remembered that year. The anger, the speeches, the call for revenge. Yes, he said. Your clans attacked first. Ragna shook her head. No, the word was simple, but heavy. Mira continued. Human lord wanted borderland. Rich land. He sent his own men at night. Burned farms. Used orc weapons. Made it look like us. Ethan's heart skipped. That is not possible, he said quickly. But his voice did not sound strong. Ragna's eyes did not move away from his. Our scouts found truth. We try to speak with human leaders. And, Ethan asked, they killed our messengers, Ragna replied. Silence filled the ruin again. Ethan's mind raced. He remembered how fast the war started. How quickly people believed the worst. How easily anger spread. But your clans fought back, he said. Yes, Ragnar said. Because after that, humans attacked real orc villages. Mira looked down at her hands. Children died. The words were soft, but they cut deep. Ethan looked at the fire. He remembered his own village burning. His brother screaming. Was that also part of a bigger lie? Or just revenge after revenge? Why tell me this? He asked quietly. Ragnar's voice was steady. Because you chose to see. Ethan did not answer. Ragnar continued. Many orcs wanted peace. Some chiefs wanted land. Some wanted power. Just like your lords. Mira added. We refused to kill prisoners. Our chief called us weak. So you were punished, Ethan said slowly. Ragnar nodded. First by our own clan. Then by yours. The truth felt heavy in the small ruin. Ethan realized something painful. The war was not just humans versus orcs. It was power versus truth. Greed versus life. We are all used, Mira whispered. Ethan looked at them both. And now, he asked. Ragnar straightened her back. Now both sides still believe old stories. If they find us together, they will not see peace. Ethan understood. He had already seen the look in the soldier's eyes. Confusion, anger, fear. The world was not ready. But maybe some places were. There's a village near the western river, Ethan said slowly. War survivors live there. Umans. Some mixed bloods. They stay away from armies. Ragnar listened carefully. They accept orcs? They accept anyone who follows rules, Ethan replied. Myra's eyes showed a small spark of hope. That is far. 2 days, Ethan said. Through forest and hills. Ragnar looked at Ethan closely. You would take us there? Ethan hesitated only for a second. If you stay here, others will come. That was true. The soldiers would talk. Rumors would spread. This ruin would not stay secret for long. Ragnar slowly stood up. Her strength was returning little by little. Mira stood beside her. You walk dangerous road, Ragnar said. Ethan nodded. Yes. Ragnar stepped closer. You know your own people may turn against you. Ethan thought about his village. About the whispers that would follow him. About being called traitor. Then he remembered the ropes. The sign. Monsters. He looked at Ragnar and Mira. I'm tired of burying truth under hate, he said quietly. Outside, the wind moved through the trees again. This time, it sounded like a whisper of change. 3 figures stood in the broken ruin. Not human, not orc, just survivors of the same lie. And when dawn came, they would walk a path that could either build peace or start a new war. The road to the neutral valley was long. Too long. Ethan walked in the middle. Ragnar walked on his right. Mira walked on his left. Not as prisoners, not as enemies, but not fully as friends either. The forest slowly changed into open land. Small villages appeared in the distance. Smoke rose from chimneys. Life was trying to return after war. But peace is fragile. People stared when they saw them. A human man walking beside 2 orc women. Some faces showed fear. Some showed anger. Some showed shock. Ethan kept walking. He did not look down. He did not look away. Ragnar felt the stares. Her shoulders stayed straight, but inside she felt the tension. She had marched through human villages before during war. But this time was different. This time she was not holding a weapon. Mira walked quietly. She noticed every movement, every door closing quickly, every whisper. They do not trust, Mira said softly. They don't know you, Ethan replied. And you? Ragnar asked. Ethan looked ahead. I'm still learning. That night, they stopped near a small river. Ethan built a fire. Ragnar hunted a small animal despite her weak body. Mira cleaned the water carefully before drinking. They worked without speaking much. But something had changed. They moved like a small team. Not perfect, but real. In the middle of the night, Mira woke suddenly. She heard something. Not animals. Footsteps. Light. Fast. Many. She shook Ethan. He opened his eyes instantly. Ragnar was already awake. Dark shapes moved between the trees. Bandits. Not soldiers. Not orcs. Just greedy men. They saw 3 travelers and smelled easy loot. 5 men stepped out of the shadows. Rough clothes. Rusty swords. Cruel smiles. Well, one said. Look what we found. His eyes moved to Ragnar and Mira. Orcs, he laughed. Big ones. Another man grinned. They'll sell for good coin. Ethan slowly stood up. We don't want trouble, he said calmly. The bandit leader laughed loudly. Too late. The attack was fast. One bandit rushed toward Ethan. Steel clashed in the dark. Ragna grabbed a thick branch and swung it hard into another man's side. Even weak, she was powerful. Mira moved quickly, low and fast. She knocked one attacker down with a clean strike. But more came. A scream suddenly cut through the night. Not from them. From behind the trees. A small human child ran out in fear. A family had been camping nearby. One bandit grabbed the child roughly. Easy hostage, he sneered. Without thinking, Ragna moved. She charged forward. Her injured leg almost failed, but she pushed through pain. She slammed into the bandit, throwing him away from the child. The child fell to the ground, crying. Mira stepped in front of the child instantly, blocking another attacker. Ethan disarmed the bandit leader and knocked him down hard. The fight ended quickly after that. Two bandits ran away. The others lay on the ground groaning. Silence returned again. The child's mother rushed forward and pulled her son into her arms. She looked at Ragna, at the large orc warrior breathing heavily, blood running down her arm. You saved him, the woman whispered. Ragna looked confused. She had saved many lives before, but never a human child. Mira helped the old father stand up. The family stared at the three travelers, not with fear, but with something else. Gratitude. The old man slowly bowed his head. Do you thank you? Ragna froze. No human had ever bowed to her. Ethan watched quietly. This was it. This was the moment. Not a big speech. Not a grand battle. Just a simple act. An orc protecting a human child. The next morning, the family walked beside them toward the valley for safety. When they reached the village gate, word spread quickly. Orcs saved a child. People gathered. They whispered. They stared. But their eyes were different now. Not only fear, but doubt. Maybe monsters did not protect children. Maybe the world was not as simple as war made it. Ethan stood between Ragna and Mira again. But this time, he was not standing between enemies. He was standing between the past and a possible future. And for the first time, the road ahead did not look impossible. The Western River Village stood between two hills. Small houses made of wood and stone. Smoke rising from chimneys. Children running near the water. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Ethan stopped at the edge of the road. Ragna and Mira stood behind him. People had already seen them. Whispers started immediately. Orcs! What are they doing here? Call the guards. Fear moved faster than wind. Ethan felt it. Ragna stood tall, but her hands were tense. Myra's eyes scanned every rooftop. They were ready for attack, but they did not move forward. Ethan took the first step. The village guards rushed forward with spears raised. Halt! Ethan raised his hands slowly. I bring no threat. The captain of the guards narrowed his eyes. You bring orcs. I bring survivors, Ethan replied calmly. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some faces were angry. Some were scared. An older man stepped forward. The village elder. He looked at Ethan carefully. You are the soldier from Red Valley, the elder said. Ethan nodded once. And now you stand with them? Ethan did not look back at Ragna or Mira. Yes. The elder studied the two orc women. They are warriors. Yes. Why should we not drive them away? Ethan took a slow breath. Because this was the moment. Not a battle. Not swords. Just words. They were left hanging to die. Ethan said clearly. Silence fell. Upside down. Like animals. Some villagers looked uncomfortable. They did not attack me. Ethan continued. They did not beg. They did not lie. Ragna stepped forward slightly. Her voice was deep but steady. We refused to kill prisoners, she said. Our own clan punished us. Mira added quietly. We saved human child on road 2 days ago. A woman in the crowd gasped. She pushed through the people. It was the same old woman Mira protected from bandits. Her arm was still bandaged. She pointed at Mira. She speaks truth, the woman said loudly. The smaller one stood in front of me when bandits attacked. She took blade for me. The crowd shifted. Whispers changed. Not gone, but softer. The guard captain looked unsure. The elder stepped closer to Ethan. You risk much bringing them here, he said. Ethan nodded. Yes. And if your people call you traitor? Ethan looked around at the faces watching him. Children. Farmers. Widows of war. If helping the weak makes me traitor, he said calmly, then maybe we must change what loyalty means. The words stayed in the air. No one moved. Then something unexpected happened. A small boy walked forward from the crowd. He looked at Ragna, not with fear, but with curiosity. He held out a piece of bread. Ragna froze. She had faced swords without fear. But this was harder. Slowly, carefully, she lowered herself to one knee. So she would not look so tall. So she would not look so frightening. She accepted the bread gently. The boy smiled. The crowd watched in silence. The elder looked at the guard captain. The captain slowly lowered his spear. One by one, the other guards did the same. The elder finally spoke. You may stay. For now. It was not full trust, not full peace, but it was a door opening. Ragna looked at Ethan. In my clan, she said softly, a warrior who protects enemy becomes legend. Ethan gave a small, tired smile. I'm not legend. Mira shook her head. You are something stronger. Ethan looked at the village again, at the people watching, at the small space that had just been created between fear and hope. 2 orc women were left to die upside down. The world expected revenge. It expected anger. It expected blood. Instead, a human cut the rope. He stood between swords. He chose to listen. And that small choice did something no one expected. It did not end the war. It did not erase pain. But it planted something new. Something dangerous to hate. Something powerful. Understanding. And sometimes, the strongest weapon in any world is not a blade. It is the courage to see the enemy as human.